treatment of back pain without pain. So I have had a history of low back pain, and when I've had low back pain, I've also had treatment for it. And treatment for me isn't stim, ice, rest. Treatment for me has been movement. And I've had the pleasure of working with amazing physical therapists who have said, lay on your back and show me exercises that you can do. So, and then we're going to move to a different position once you show me those exercises. Because those exercises are also going to show me exercises that we need to do if you can't do them. So, the reason all of this matters is a lot of people look at back pain as something they have to suffer through, whereas I'm on the impression and have the experience that low back pain is something that once you do go through it, you want it to be as quick as possible that you graduate to the other side. So I'm going to show you some movements that I would assess and do first. I'm going to work on the toe touch. So I'm going to show you my toe touch and where it should be and where pain is. Okay. From there. So I'm really, really limited now. That's my toe touch. Okay. So from that, I need to make some adjustments. I'm also going to do a right over left and a left over right to see if there's a difference in the toe touch. And I'm not faking either. I have some pulling on the lumbar spine when I do that. So here's the other side. And I'm stuck. Okay. And normally, by the way, my normal, this matters too, I can get to the ground. Okay. But right now, everything's going to my low back. So let's look at a squat. So my hip hinge, my toe touch is affected. Now let's look at the squat. Huh. No problem. And no pain, no wincing. You saw that, right? Let's check balance. Okay. I can do this eyes closed. I don't need to do that for 30 seconds to show you that I can. Again, eyes open, eyes closed. Again, you get the idea. Now, let's check a split squat. Okay. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, roughly 90 degrees, pushing down, pushing down. Again, no pain. Switch. Okay. No pain. I'm going to give you a rough look at a thoracic rotation test. Okay. So, golfer, right? Now, another test you could do would be to split your stance and then have one hand outside. Reach up, come back down. Decent there. Switch. Uh-oh. There's a limitation. Okay, so when we do these motions and we say, I have low back pain, where is it coming from? Is it from my squat? Nope. Can I squat right now? Pain-free. Yes. Can I touch my toes without pain? There's the pull. That's when I feel the pull. So standing, red X, right? Standing, toe touch. Shouldn't be doing a deadlift at all. Even a single leg deadlift is probably going to turn into more. There's about as much as I'm going to get of I'm going to involve more knee, right? Let's try the other side. Now this is the uninvolved side. So this is less back pain on that side. So I can get there. It's another good example of the left to right. So where is the problem technically is on this side. That's affecting me when I'm on both legs, right? We saw that in the toe touch, but technically the single leg is a bother. So the idea behind the positional assessment and treatment and movement thought process is that when we do movements, we want them to be and to show that I graduate from one position to the next. So what I'm going to do is show you and I'm doing this for myself, admittedly. So I'm going to show you though exercises that I would deem important, and with that, you can see movements that should be happening or should not be happening. I'm going to do body weight ones just to show you first. So let's go ahead and look at that leg discrepancy as we kind of saw before on that single leg. So from here, I can get pretty much to 90, but I still feel that pain. So I have a little bit of resistance, and I feel what's the right word for it? A little tension going up through that hip, right? So I'm gonna still do reps here. Yeah, it still drifts into my low back when I get to the top. So something's going on this side when I do an active mobility or an active straight leg raise. Let's see what the other side looks like. Okay, so it's there too, but definitely not to the same extent. Really try to force that leg straight, but I still feel like my hamstrings are limited and I have a lot of pull on that hamstring. It kind of goes into the low back. Usually, this is not a problem. So, again, going back to usually, this is, I'm a little limited. So, I'm not to 90 without forcing it. And then on the other side, I'm getting to 90, but once I get to 90, that there's some tension there. So I'm going to stop right there and say, let's address that. So I'm going to grab a band. You can use a towel. You can use whatever. I'm going to grab different bands just to show you because I think sometimes it's better to have the visual. So I'm going to show this, and then from here, I'm going to go ahead and put the band. I'm going to do this a couple ways. I'm going to do a resisted one first. So I'm going to work hip extension, okay, and push down. I already feel this. Push down to squeeze and then back up. I should probably bend this knee. So I'm going to push down. I'm resisting, right? Hip. So this is hip extension going that way. I'm resisting it. Okay, so let's just do 5 for now, and then we'll switch sides. So let's see the difference. So I already feel tension. Like, again, I told you before, I'm not to 90, but I want to see if this helps relieve some of that tension by using the muscles on this side. So I'm going to push down and squeeze. Come back up. Push down and squeeze. Push, and this is pain-free. This was painful, then I do something else. But I definitely feel like I need more resistance. This is not a lot, but I feel it. Like it feels good. Feels good to work that backside of that hip. Okay. So let's say that is 5. Now we're going to go back. I'm going to use a stronger band for this one because I think a drop is better here. So this is a single leg drop. Okay. But the single leg drop now, I have support on this side. So I'm going to drop and then back up. So is this more core or hamstring? So arguably, this is more core. And if I wanted to, I could come up and hold. Again, I'll only show 5. So the concept remains. I'm trying to show positional. So now I have assistance on this side. I feel a lot of the tension here. And then I'm going to drop and show, ideally, mastery of this position. Weirdly enough, I don't really feel this in the core. That's why I have other bands here. But I feel this working, but just in that different spot. So this is in a spot where I feel the tension of the band. So arguably, that band didn't help that much. So what do? I'm going to go another route and say sometimes muscles, even in this position, aren't working and aren't pulling in the right places. So in this instance, I'm going to do a banded hip flexion. Why would banded hip flexion matter? In this instance, what I'm going to do, okay, is start from here and I'm going to show resistance and ownership of this side. So this side's going to create the tension on this. And so my hip flexor has to work, technically an isometric. I'll do 5. There's no pain here, but when my low back tries to get involved by arching, that's when I have that red flag for me of like stop and fix it. So now I'm going to switch sides. Let's see the difference. That wasn't that bad, but I'm going to switch sides. So weirdly, I have a little bit of pain. Weirdly, I think this hip is trying to contribute more. This is a harder exercise on this side. So I'm going to mark, this is my first, like almost not red flag, but yellow flag. I have weakness in this hip flexor during resisted hip flexion. So now All right, well, how do you do another version of hip flexion? So I'm gonna put both legs on the ground and then go knee to chest. So right side feels working, but no pain, just working. We'll do 5. Really important here though, on my other side, uninvolved side, I'm pushing down into the ground to give myself stability and support. I'm gonna switch other side. I bet you this side could get to 15. This side would struggle. I feel it, no pain, but this side has no pain, which is good. But I can feel it feels weaker. So I'm going to say that that hip flexor, for whatever reason, is bothered right now, and might be altering that position of the way I carry my pelvis when I'm standing, and thus when I go to do a toe touch, that's why I failed a toe touch. Just so we're clear, I was a foot short of my normal range of motion on the toe touch. So again, let's go back. Straight leg, can I toe touch or have the upper body and the leg be at 90 degrees? Yes, that's 90 degrees when I do assisted and pulling here. This isn't what most people need. Most people think they need this, but this is just passive, right? So I'm just letting the band help me into the stretch. Not that it's not good, but once I'm there, that's not necessarily going to fix. And what I'll do here too, because I want to show more exercises out of this. Um, like this feels good, but when my leg is straight, technically it feels a little freer than when I started on the ground, but I still feel a lot of that tension in the back all the way through my feet. So again, with stretches, you're holding a minimum of 15, ideally 30 seconds, so you can relax enough into the stretch. So passive range of motion here. So just helping myself into that, even though it's against a resistance, but I'm not moving against that resistance. So, all right, let's come on up. Let's check that toe touch and see if we have a difference. So, can my hip hinge be better after ground based exercises? If that's the case, then and ground based being on my back. If that's the case, then that gives us also another clue of all right, the band and that position, some of those exercises are helping. So I'm gonna do that toe touch. Okay, arguably it is much freer now. All right, I mean I was way worse before. So there's probably some solutions to be had on my back on the ground. I would argue that the hip flexion, one, I felt a lot, and then the straight leg, uh, single leg drop was also one that which I felt like that felt good. So there's 2 exercises there that I can add and say I'm gonna keep those for later. All right. So we have a band resisted hip flexion to help. And again, this is with the intent of restoring what we know to be necessary, which is a toe touch. Okay. Again, I'll show you one more time. I was here. And now with a breath, definitely straight leg, definitely have more range of motion. But the idea is that I can't be doing an RDL. I can't be doing a deadlift, a sumo. I mean, maybe a sumo. But yeah, sumo feels okay. But when my stance is close, we have a problem, and that's when I have pain. So let's go back to position number 2, which would be prone. Okay, I'm going to show you on an angle here. You might be like, "What in the world? What can you do prone?" So there's a lot. So first one I'm going to do is I'm going to go on an activation drill. So I'm going to say I want to activate my right glute. Okay, so I'm going to push down into the ground on my other side, and then with a straight leg, I'm going to lead that heel to the ceiling. So this is prone hip extension. Okay, again, face down. And you're going to feel everything, right? You're going to feel your hamstring, really not calf though, hamstring and glute. And ideally, you do enough reps. Let's just say I did 15 to feel a good muscle burn. This can also be banded. Other side, let's see the difference. Okay, this is the pain side. And it feels good, but I feel like it's pinching just a little when I get to that top range. Again, how much and how many reps you do, up to you. Arguably, though, I didn't feel it that much. Now, exercises that you can do out of this start to get fun. So one of my favorite ones out of this position is called the prone scorpion. So this is a rotational. We haven't even got to rotation yet, but this will be our first rotational drill to assess and maybe correct this pain pattern that I'm having. So, and again, remember, I'm a rotational athlete. Ha! Some would argue not an athlete. Golf. I play a lot of golf, 2 times a week on average. So I'm gonna keep stable here, push, and then trying to get my back heel to the ground. That side doesn't have that rotation limitation. So let's see the other side. And there we are. So the other side, I can get my foot to the ground. This one, I mean, I'm just not there. So something's in the way, whether it's an active or passive restraint. Could it be bony? Could it be tendon, ligament, et cetera? Something that's tight, but that range of motion, again, show you my foot's on the ground here. I don't have that restriction. Other side, I'm stuck. So again, a rotational athlete, I'm shortening my backswing somehow to get my obliques to let that motion happen. So the pain pattern, my body's protecting itself, but we got to fix it. So that's not going to be the stretch necessarily or the exercise, but that does show you the difference. So that's using an exercise there. Let's flip that and say, could we do that same exercise, but on your back? Let's try it. Same thing, right? But now, arms out to the side. You can go palms down, palms up. Okay. I'm going to kick and see if I can get my foot to 90 degrees. Okay. Which is at my shoulder. And in this side, you can rotate through it. I'm there. Okay. So rotationally, I'm good on my follow through. Let's check my backswing. Okay. So here, and that's where we're stuck. So I can't get to the ground. I have limitation by about a foot difference. If I go and try to get extra range of motion, it's going to come from somewhere else. So rotation right now is arguably showing up as a problem, which is also a problem for a rotational sport. So rotation on this left side is an issue. I'm going to boil it down even further in a second. So hold on to that thought. But I want to go to one more exercise real quick to show rotation, but show it supported. So there's an exercise called prone knee to elbow. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here. My chin is going to be on my hands, and I'm going to rotate through my right side. I actually feel, interestingly enough, pain. Okay, this is one of my first exercises with pain. I get pain right around there. So when my hip is making my pelvis rotate this way, right, on top of the other side, it's pinching at that posterior of my pelvis. Okay. So that's our first pain. So I'm going to stop that. Now let's see the other side. And pain happens a little sooner. This is where we boil it down and boil the movement down. So both of them had pain in that. So the prone knee to elbow is a problem. I'm going to boil it down and say, let's not bring that hip into play as much, but let's try to get muscles working below that range of motion. So this is called a figure 4 knee liftoff. So here, I don't have pain, interestingly enough. And actually, it feels good to work upper hamstring just below my butt and the rotator muscles of the hip. Arguably, it's a great stretch. I do feel a little pull on the left side, but that'll go because my left side's probably trying to protect it. Now let's see the other side and see strength-wise when I have my foot behind the knee, okay? And then I'm doing the knee lift off. So arguably, there's no pain here, but this is harder. Okay, so 15 of each, and that was probably the most different exercise. So that sort of lift off, so this sort of clamshell position, that was hard. Okay, so again, we talk about positions and like, does this position feel good? Sure. Is this a passive stretch? Yes. Is this part of McKenzie technique? Yes. Is this going to be part of the solution that helps me discover what exercises I need to be doing to make me feel better? So I don't want to say fast, but faster. I don't think this is the exercise. So a lot of people will do this and then say this. All those things feel good, but they weren't the problem. My lumbar extension, thoracic spine extension weren't part of the problem. And the reason that I have, again, here's, right? That's arguably pretty good. My back's moving well that way, but not the other way. So, and by the way, some people would say, oh, just do the down dog, right? Do I feel that stretch? Sure. Is that part of it? Nope. And it creates some space back there. But again, that's space that's at the passive restraint level, not necessarily there's muscles around it that are being used right now that are posing a problem and maybe overactive to protect me from doing further damage. Again, this concept of movement based. We started on the back, we went to the stomach. Only about 3 or 4 exercises that we've done have shown that they were really effective. There's one that I did leave out, kind of just remembered it right now. There's one that I did leave out that's even less hip action and in terms of range of motion required, but a lot of muscle activation. And what you're going to do, you can do this without the band too, but you're going to put your band on your ankles. All right. And then from here, you're going to go and get to 90 degrees. And then ideally, I'd put a yoga block here between my knees. Okay. But from this position, I'm going to squeeze that band out and then back. And this, oddly enough, feels awesome. I'm going to actually double time it so I can get a lot more reps in for you. It's probably not equal right to left, but I'm just trying to get a lot of reps here because it feels awesome on the outside of the hips here. So that's also a clue for me of when I felt restriction, the outside of my hips, it feels really good. Outside of my hips were maybe not opening up enough for me to move, or something was compensating to hold me back from the range of motion that I know I can perform and conquer. So we talked about 2 positions. Let's talk about the third. And it's not just because I'm being lazy and keeping the band on, but I want to show you this. So the third position that I would have questions about before we go to all fours. All fours has a myriad of ways that we can address T-spine, lumbar spine, hip mobility. Really, probably the most positions or the most exercises out of one position. So I'm going to address this though. This is the elephant right now, which is this hip that I'm going to address. And I'm going to go and get 15. I'm going to double time it again because it feels good and it's pain free. So again, 15, let's call it. I forgot. And then what you normally do is take the top foot off. Okay. And then you're going to bring the the top foot to your chest and then the bottom foot off. And no pain here. Just feels work. But again, I'll double time it to get the reps in. And then the graduation from that to that, those are both pain free. Okay, so again, any exercise that is pain, I'm going to stop. I'm going to have questions and usually try to reverse back down the stairs of elevation. So when I was face down and I did the knee to elbow and I felt the pain, when I had my knee out to the side, I had to stop. And then I tried an exercise below that, which was the ankle behind the knee. So now the other exercise that we graduate to, okay? So the top foot up, and I'm gonna bring the bottom foot to the top foot. So now I got a little bit of core stability and my pelvis is, instead of being here and just moving from here, I'm gonna actually challenge my pelvis to do this and then do a deduction almost out of a more unstable pelvis. So there's core here too. I feel this way more than the first version. So I'll double time. By the way, you're more than welcome to do these exercises along with it. This will be part of the training for my trainers to understand from a position-based standpoint how to deal with clients in pain. But that felt really good. My hip feels worked right now on both sides, and we're going to switch sides just so you can see, and then do the same thing. And let's see. This is the pain side. So right now, this is the side that we have the questions on. Let's see how this side does with the same exercises. Okay. Kind of, you probably have a hunch. I have a hunch on how this is going to go. So I'm going to push. This feels fine. I'm working the muscle right here. Kind of feels good. Okay. Here's question number one. Yep. So I'm having a trouble getting this foot up. Okay. So the muscle that might be tight could be the piriformis, right? This is almost a piriformis stretch, but it is a smaller muscle that could be aggravated. And then that nerve or the muscle origin and insertion are bothered together. So worth noting for an appointment later today with a sports physiotherapist. So from here, now I'm going to go that one feels fine. Don't feel a big strength difference. Weirdly enough, the biggest thing I feel is this stretch. 14, 15. All right, now this is the hardest of these. And it's not so bad. I feel it. I actually don't feel it as much as the other side. The other side, I felt it a lot. We're going to say that's 15, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool. So Jane Fonda would be proud that I did those. Let's go one step further / below. I'm going to bend and shorten the lever and make this a more concise glute exercise. But from a core perspective, I have more core out of this position. So exercise number one would have been this position, this side bridge. Okay, I can put my top foot on straight. Kind of felt a pinch there. Interesting, right? So that's version one. If I wanted to keep both hips forward, squeeze down, rib cage down. I'm actually not squared just yet. Probably need to be back here. So pushing down, again, rib cage down, trying to engage and lift from here while pushing forward from here. So you have a glute recruitment from this side, and then you have obviously oblique recruitment from this side. Let's say, and this, I'll do the other side too. There was no pain. I felt a pinch when I went for more range of motion, but so it's not this one, it's the behind, okay? So I almost feel it like when I get to that bottom position, but I'm gonna lift and push and squeeze the hip forward. The bridge would be another version with a lift off, so like a side plank, abbreviated side plank, but in this instance, just a bridge. I guess we can graduate to the side plank, knees bent. I feel it a little bit, oblique here, glute here, squeeze more forward. I feel it even more, no pain. Now, if you want to be really aggressive, you can say, well, how's your side plank? So in this instance, when I get up into the side plank, I'm holding and I'm actually pain-free. Keep in mind, I usually do side plank with weight and or with a lot more range of motion. But so side plank number one, okay, split stance to make sure that I get some adductors. That's not a problem. Let's just go quick to the other side because we're already there and see, is there a difference? I'm not seeing / feeling that much of a difference. So the answer that I have for you / any practitioner is the side plank part of the solution. Maybe it's above the joint that's experiencing pain. So the side plank itself was using the obliques, right? And maybe a little of the glute to stabilize the pelvis and the trunk. So it could be part of the solution. But if it's not a challenge, then maybe it can be a part of the warm up, but it's not going to be an exercise that we're going to put in the formula to escape this pain pattern. So let's go backwards. I'm going to do what's called a side lying hip thrust. Okay. And what I want to do here is focus on the line. So my left elbow, the back of my left elbow, the back of my left hip, the back of my left heel are all in a straight line. I'm going to lift this knee up, This knee stays down. I'm going to lift this. Both feet can technically stay down, but I'm going to push down through the lower shin and then push my hips forward and then back. So I feel a little bit of that restriction that I felt when I did rotation earlier. So this is the first now, but pain free, but I feel like it's locked. Like I feel like there's something, this feels good on the muscles, but I feel like there's something locked there. So something in my hip is said, don't go any further. I'm only going to do however that many that was. Let's see the other side and see if there's a difference there. That kind of felt good, but let's see the other side real quick. So again, good, no pain, but I could feel that passive restraint. I don't know how else to explain it other than you're opening a door and something's in the way. So pushing down and then opening. My angle's off a little bit. I need to be a little bit more compact. Knee here, squeeze up. I don't feel that restriction. And arguably, it feels easier on this side. So exercise left side probably needs to be there in terms of exercises that I do. We have a couple that we've already addressed. I'm going to, for those that are just joining, do this right now and give you those exercises. So exercise number one, that seemed to be helpful in terms of my definition of helpful. I feel it working and causing no pain, and it's harder to perform, so it demands more from the muscles. I think that's important. So from here, I'm going to extend my right leg while leaving my left leg down. And again, this is me remembering, not writing anything down. There's no formula here that I'm following. My body is the leaving me clues of which I'm following. So didn't feel that one that much. I don't feel this one that much either. So things could be changing. Real time, things are changing from when I started. I don't feel this as much. One more. Okay. So felt good. The advanced version, if I really want to put myself at risk here, the advanced version would be the straight leg version of a hollow hold from there. And that's the first pull I feel on my low back. So requiring more from my core. Switch. Still pulls in that same spot. But this is technically a hollow hold, toe box, hip flexion. That one, again, talk about exercises that feel good. That one didn't. That one bothers. Somehow that motion of knee to chest is bothersome. So I wonder if the hip flexor and or this musculature is pulling the hip and the construction this way, and that sort of rotation discrepancy is what's causing my low back on that side to be bothered. So I'm going to add another version of stretches just off the top of mind. And this is important. This is the box stretch. I think a lot of people massacre this stretch. I think the intent matters here. So what I'm going to do is point out number one, which is we should be able to. I can. We should be able to hold this position. So I'm not moving. I'm just using my torso to hold it. A lot of people will need their hand. Why is that important? Well, because a lot of people do this exercise and they don't know why they're doing this exercise, or they say that they're doing this exercise. I actually just changed it. I don't know if you noticed that. I just completely changed the exercise. And then they say, I do this all the time. Yeah, it feels good. Okay, well, what are you doing? So in this instance, I don't feel that. Nothing. So hip rotation, I'm tight on this side. But here's the question. The goal of this is to show hip control, yes? More so than your obliques, cramping, etc. But technically, if I stop with my hands, remember what I said that the goal is to be able to do this without? If I separate without my hands, okay, that right side was harder, left side is not. First time the right side showing misbehavior or a lack of strength. Yep. So the inside of my right hip, when I get down to here, I don't want to hold that position. Remember I said we should be able to hold that position. This is harder on that side than this. This is not that hard for me to hold. So our first, again, this is live. I didn't plan any of this. I wasn't doing this before. And then said, let me run this back. Didn't know. This is because my back is bothering me. I'm giving you a live run of what I would do. So on that side, that's going to be the side that we're going to address. Ordinarily, I do all the same exercises through this side, but let me show you the other side because that seems to be where the problem is. So at least from a rotational and strength perspective, again, I'm a rotational athlete. Golf is a big part of, I have a club championship this weekend that I've kind of budgeted time for. So I want to be able to play arguably. So let's talk about this. So position one, again, this was harder. Something in this side, so my abs here, maybe it's psoas, maybe it's internal external obliques. Something in here is not firing the way that it should, and I'm struggling to maintain this position. This sitting here right here is hard. I don't know why, but something's hard there. So it feels good when I put this hand down. But I'm gonna go over stretch number one that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna square myself up a little bit better. I'm gonna bring my chest / buttons to my front knee. This is stretch number one, and then I'll show you version number two. So from here, I'm gonna bring that chest on top of that knee. That feels like an absolute marvelous stretch, almost like a down pigeon. Okay, and again, I'm not moving the other side when I go down to the stretch. All right, so from here, right, this feels good. I can go lower, count to 30 seconds, let's say. Hold it for 30 seconds. Awesome, great. Let's say that's 30 seconds. Before I do another stretch, I want to do and show you that that is a, again, passive stretch. I want to show you the active version and see what this difference, I'll then go switch to the other side, and then see what the difference is when I go to use my other hip. Okay, so this is off the ground. I'm going to bring my back foot in front, ideally get square, almost looks like that figure four position I did before, and ideally with very little hand assistance. Right now I feel like I need a lot more. I'm almost going to cramp in my left hip. I'm going to try to go chest on knee. My back foot and back knee aren't touching, so I'm using core to stabilize from that hip, stabilizing through that hip, and then going back. So arguably doing better with every rep. Again, back knee is off the ground, challenging that hip to stabilize my pelvis. Let's show the other side real quick. So let's do chest over knee. I'm a little off here. I'm a little tighter here. So definitely this right hip might be part of this problem. So why is this right hip tighter? It's my backswing, not necessarily my follow through. So limitation, maybe my backswing and follow through, which I'm accomplishing, but they're different because of the amount of hip rotation required for each is part of the problem. So again, let's say I held this for 30 seconds. Let's see again if I can compare left to right side. Okay. Get my chest on top of that knee. Harder, no hands. Okay. So again, positionally, let's say this exercise isn't that different, right? So let's go backwards and say, I'm going to start out of this position again. This is the box stretch. I'm going to see if I can get rotationally outside my left shoulder, but also outside of my right hip. So my right hip right now is at my right hip. My right hand and my right hip are right here and in line with my left knee. So I'm going to squeeze this hip forward almost that way. Oop, that's my first pinch in a while. Felt a pinch there. So interesting. My left side has to rotate around my right. Arguably, my right side rotates around my left from a movement brace perspective. So I'm going to rotate here again, getting on top, and then I'm going to take squeezing that pelvis ideally more to neutral and around this right hip as a base. I'm going to take my other hand and then put it and lock it on top of this right hand. Take a deep breath and look over my right shoulder with every breath. Try to relax into the stretch more, keeping this left side engaged so that I'm rotating around my right hip. Again, this is more of a active mobility, but getting through that right side. That felt really good. Felt restriction here, like that's where I felt most of the stretch. And then obviously this hip. Now, let's do another stretch. I'm going to be right outside of that spot that I was with my hand. And in fact, I'm going to try to get my buttons. This is really important. I'm going to try to get my buttons to the ground. Okay, look how far off my elbow is. I'm going to see if I can drop it. But what's going to happen is I'm going to drift this way because I don't have that range of motion. Let me see if I can get there. So the buttons being outside this hip is the backswing, and this back knee has to stay down. So I feel no pinching on the left side, but I feel this stretch. It's actually limiting my deep breath. That's how much of a stretch this is. So big stretch, big challenge. If you're really mobile, and you'll see some yogis can do this, you can take your hand and walk it out to the side and see if you can get your chest, watch that back knee, to the ground. So there's a big stretch, and then go out here. That back knee is coming up because it's tight. But again, there's that goal of showing range of motion and control of that range of motion. There are some yogis I've seen where they can lift themselves down to this position and then back up. That would be next to impossible. I don't even think I could lower myself and then back up. No, I couldn't do that. So there's my right side. Let's see the left side. I'm gonna go towards you this time so you can see the stretch. So again, start from the box stretch, and I'm gonna get my left hand or the front hand outside that front hip. Okay. And again, maintaining this position here. And then I'm gonna sweep this right hand outside / on top of, see this? This is interesting. I'm stuck. I can't get my hand there. So I'm gonna adjust and do it, but I'm stuck. Like that. That was a challenge there. Breathe. So rotationally, on my follow through, you're seeing I have limitations. So could this affect my swing? Could this affect, my lumbar spine? Could this affect the way I grab the ground? Yes. Now, fun story. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this, but I'm going to see if I can get that side down. Okay. And ideally, this is that side position. I did it before with the side bridge, but ideally I can get this side down, and this is going to be, I'm going to have to be in front. So I'm more in front. Again, the buttons ideally are outside the back of your hip. I'm not even close. So I can try walking myself back, but that is as close to a pinch on my back as I can feel. So is this bothering my back? Normally, no. But right now, my rotation limitation, see there, I'm stuck. I had no problem on the other side. So what I would do is put my arm out and just see if I can gently lower myself down to get that rotation. And again, this would be impossible. But you can check, and see if you can lower. Yeah, I don't even feel that stretch because I don't have that limitation through my shoulder necessarily. That turns it into more of a shoulder / T-spine drill, whereas this one arguably is more rib cage. Try one more time. That is a rib cage limitation right there. I mean, I'm literally having trouble breathing. So something's off somewhere that's forcing a compensation pattern. This position actually feels good. There's no pain in this position. But we haven't even got to quadruped. So this is this is how this is sort of nuanced. Of position learning for me has always been all right. My red flags have been really in the prone scorpion, so rotation, where I'm trying to get my hand and foot to touch, but it's prone. So that's my biggest red flag right now. The hamstring in like toe touch. And I guess we can test the toe touch here in a second. But the toe touch would be the second, like we're the first thing that we're like looking at. But then in this instance, rotation, I don't have it. So that could be, and then yeah, I felt a twinge there in hip extension. When getting to hip extension, felt a twinge. Interesting. So, and I'm taking mental notes to give to the physiotherapist later today. So let's go back and just test real quick because I'm going to go back down to one more position. And this will tell us too if a position and the exercises out of that position are being helpful, right? So again, the idea behind helpful is the exercises are changing your range of motion for the better and restoring range of motion where there wasn't, right? So range of motion in this instance is showing control. So let's see about that toe touch. So before I was pretty limited. Arguably that kind of kept it the same. So in that instance, the sideline and the box stretch patterns didn't do anything, wait for this, except show me where I have limitations. So they were good for an assessment, but those weren't good to say, why is this right here, right at my short line, why is that bothered? So now I mentioned this before, but this is probably the best or one of the best positions because there's so many exercises out of that. So again, going with this theme of I know the exercises thus far that are troublesome, they are rotation. But rotation for me also means that the glutes have to be working and or not working, and then the obliques are working and or not working. So let's address both of those right now. So from this position here, I'm going to try for activation and range of motion, but I'm going to start with range of motion. So I'm going to start with what's called a hip circle. So I'm going to keep both of my arms down. I'm not going to do this. So straight forward, straight back. That's not going to be, that's like the king of most exercises in the king of most physical therapy regimens is the bird dog. For some reason, people like the bird dog, but that's only if you have a flexion and extension problem. And a flexion and extension problem, as we've seen, is not something that I have. So for me to do that, and I don't have the stability issue there. Let's go backwards though. I'm gonna go for range of motion. So I'm gonna try to get my right hip and my right knee to move as much as possible during this hip circle. So I'm gonna put this down here. I'm gonna imagine that's a fence post. I'm gonna bring my knee and my foot and my hip back, and I'm gonna trace as big of a circle as I can around and over, and keeping both arms mostly straight. I feel that in my obliques. Let's do the other side. I feel a little stuck at the top. What do we have to do as we did that? The opposite. So that was a forward hip circle. Now we have to do it backwards. Again, arms mostly straight. Now, that's where I feel stuck. My knee's not to 90 degrees. I'll show you the other side. So, knee to 90 degrees. Let's see if I can show you. Maybe 90. Not moving anything from my arms. I'm not kidding. But there's a as much of a example of my restriction right now, whether it's muscle, whether it's joint, we're still unclear what is my limiting factor, why is that happening. So the hip circle, backward and forward, didn't really address it. Okay, not a bad thing, but we're checking this off, and this would be obviously much faster if you were doing this as a practitioner, because you would be working with somebody and going position by position and being like, huh, that doesn't make sense. Let me try this position, right? So in this instance, a hip circle, which only showed me that I don't have the range of motion on this side, but if my toe touch isn't any better yet, then we just found an exercise that might, by challenging that exercise and that hip into exercises that can help with range of motion, we can maybe uncover the exercise sequence and the muscles that needed to be activated slash turned on, and the joint that needed to be explored, so that the muscles themselves can be worked. And thus, when I go to do the toe touch, again without pain, thus, when I go to do the toe touch, I can actually touch the toe. So I'm not using this for the sake of the toe touch, but that is our barometer of I can't do exercises right now without pain. So yesterday I went to go pick my son out of the bathtub. He's 15 months old, and I couldn't because of this position in a hip hinge. I couldn't load my core because the pressure was going straight to my low back. So let's go to that sequence of thoughts, though, of let's address that movement. So from all fours, I'm going to go and do that exercise. I'm going to say I'm going to go 15 hydrants straight out to the side. Let's just do them fast. A lot of times people will leave the knee down. You want to make sure that, or the toe down, make sure the toe travels with the knee. So the shin should be parallel to the ground the entire time. Let's just say it's 15. That side's not bothered. Let's switch to the other side. So aiming for range of motion when we already know that there wasn't. And also some people, when they do it, they're going to bring their knee forward. So they're going to try to bring their hip flexor into it. I'm going to do 15 on this side. $15. Okay, now, question. That didn't feel bad. Kind of felt good, to be honest. I'm not going to reassess that, but I'm going to go a couple more exercises before that, okay, including this one. This is foot out to the side. This is a stretch first. So I got my toe straight ahead, okay, and straight, and it's equal in line with this knee. Second, I'm going to, again, my home base, I'm not going to be bending from here. Second, I'm going to move this foot outside. So instead of kind of collapsing in here, I don't want that. I'm going to move this foot outside and rock back. And that's stuck. That is stuck. So that's very, very limited range of motion. All right, so I'm going to switch to the other side and watch this side be no problem. Yep, I have a lot more range of motion. I can sit my rib cage below my, I'm going to show you the other side real quick. I can sit my pelvis below the knee or below the hip in terms of that 90 degree. I'm stuck here. My knee is below my pelvis. There's a restriction here that's saying nope. So that's as far as I can go. And I don't feel it on this side. I feel it on this hip. So when I go to the other side, my foot out to the side and I rock back, you can see the extra range of motion. It's not from my upper back. I mean, I'm gonna round a little bit, but it's not from my upper back. It's not from my foot. But I'm deep into that stretch. My hip is far below that knee. So let's go back to the side real quick and explore this side. So in this instance, we have positional exercises out of here. So one of them, and I'm going to go ahead and move this foot again, is a toe up, heel up. So I'm going to go ahead and get my heel off the ground, leading with that heel, making sure I'm not adjusting with it, but just moving that heel, keeping the leg straight, and then the toe up. Okay, and then you can also alternate. So I feel some, Rice Krispie treat, a Rice Krispie cereal, snap, crackle, pop. But let's go to the other side real quick and see if there's a difference there. It might be easier, it might be harder. All see the same. But this is a foot airplane, right? You're kind of rotating through that pelvis excuse me, hip internal and external rotation, but no real issue there. So that's out of the question. That one wasn't a potential solution from before. But what if we ask from that position to show stability? So that was asking for mobility out of that position. What if we ask for stability? So I'm going to push down into this hip and brace. I'm going to lift this foot off the ground. Okay. This is sometimes called a hover. People do this as a hover, where you come off and just hold it. I'm going to do it for reps. So I'm going to try for 15 reps, but this is going to require core stability, rib cage stability, all through my shoulders to show awareness that I can brace down through this position and trust this left hip. That's important. I got to be able to trust this left hip. It's not just about getting this leg off the ground. It's also, I have to be able to push into the ground to lift that foot down or lift that foot up. So here we go. I feel a little pinching in the low back on the left side, but I'm able to do it. And I feel my obliques working and my hip working. Not really my hip. Let's say that's 15. I honestly lost track. Let me make sure again I'm centered. Switch to the other side. And then get that foot off the ground. I feel nothing on this side. Nothing. That's pretty easy, actually. So my right side moving. Should this right foot out to the side show that the stability needed on this side to provide the support for that leg to move probably wasn't there. That's interesting. So stability wise, we have questions on this left hip. Is the left hip range of motion decreased and thus forcing the low back to do more? Ready for this? And then the muscles that do rotation are compensating more. So some of them are being limited, right? In which case you've seen me be limited on some of these stretches. So again, we're still in all fours. I haven't really touched the T-spine. I don't think the T-spine is the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail. I think the from what we've seen, the lack of stability on this side, the pain and the range of motion on this side are affected by a lack of stability at the pelvis and a lack of range of motion at the hip, and thus the low back is trying to compensate. That's my theory, working theory as of right now. So I'm going to go backwards to 1 degree. Knowing that I need more range of motion from a rotation perspective, internal and external, on this hip, I'm going to do so. And again, we're technically only into the third pattern. So we did supine and prone, side lying, and then technically the box stretch. So this is the fourth pattern. And then we moved to half kneeling. Okay, just felt that there. It's so weird. But asking the hip when it does, so loading that left hip, felt it. So still, I would argue that that position, the half kneeling position, is a problem, and I haven't graduated there. There's no argument. So the quadruped position hasn't produced that level of zing or like, oop, there it is, as anything. So this position, clearly, I'll go to the other side. Don't really feel it, but the pattern, let me go back to the other side. Now it feels fine. But the getting into that pattern, the half kneeling pattern, you saw that there was pain there. So let's go backwards. I want to do a couple exercises I think that'll add from a rotational based perspective a likelihood. Actually, let's stand up before we do that. Let's do the toe touch one more time. And again, I'm not testing the toe touch. My hamstrings aren't the limiting factor. So I'm not going to do the hamstring mobility drills to show, which we can do, to show that I can touch my toes after a certain number of reps. But again, that's a little better. So the quadruped might have been a better solution, right? So my legs are straight. I'm definitely closer. I feel like I can get my toes up to my hands. I'm actually, with a little bit of breath, I'm almost all the way down there. So the quadruped position, probably, and the sideline position are opposites. The quadruped position so far has been helpful in the exercises that we did. So arguably the hydrants and then the straight leg hydrants, right? have been helpful so far. The side line didn't change that range of motion that much, but that is the best that weight shift and that toe touch has felt. Now, arguably, this is still there, that little pain pattern, but let's see how the pain looks after a couple more drills. So let's go to the all fours real quick and do some more banded but shorter range of motion drills. So in this instance, I'm going to put it on from up here. By the way, I couldn't do this earlier, so I couldn't actually put my shorts on while standing. So that's a good thing. All right, sorry for your leg hair, but the quadruped hydrant. So all fours and banded. Let me back up. And then just as a reminder, for the home base, make sure you're not out to the side. Make sure you're perfectly square. So you want hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. So I'm going to push straight out to the side without compensating to the other side. I'm going to get 15. Okay, switch. Side actually feels easier. That right hip is providing more stability, more support. Question. If I do the exercise and there isn't, this is an open-ended question. So, like for instance, a lot of people, this is another king exercise, right? In physical therapy, right? Okay. Feel that nowhere. However, this pattern, sorry for the view, now showing stability and asking for range of motion, right? Now this is a wholly, completely different animal. I can also do this seated. I'll show you this seated. But I feel this completely different. My hip is lighting up. Okay, and you gave me this, not me. But from that all fours position, felt really good, but it wasn't that hard. So I showed that I could do hip abduction even from 90 degrees. Huh, interesting. So now, let's see the other side. Top foot up. I'm gonna push into here and drive. Okay, so now I have no range of motion on that foot. I mean, nothing. Other side, I arguably, I'll go all the way down, but you see the compensation? This was dropping to try to force that up. You want to keep the tension here and drive that foot up. So show that you can do that range of motion. And again, I'm going to do this seated here in a second. But this is not excruciating, but this is borderline excruciating. Ow. Okay, so let's do this real quick to show you that feels really good. You can do this with a yoga block. Two, a couple different ways to do this. And this is for hip flexion too. Probably should have put this position on there. All right, but seated would be another position that you could work out of with back pain. But let's go back to what we just discovered. So all fours, knees at 90 degrees to the hip. Whether or not your foot is below the knee or whether your foot's at the knee or behind. So depending on the position, really felt good. Like right now, this is the best. Me sitting here right now is the best. Sitting was bothering me. Driving in the car was bothering me. Yeah, it almost feels easier to breathe now because I'm not all consumed by the amount of pain. And again, this is live. I'm not faking this. So now, again, I don't have a yoga block, but you can put a yoga block between. You can put one fist between. I'm going to lift this foot and do that same drill. Okay, I have a little bit more stability. I'm going to push down on this side and then try to drive my foot out to get that range of motion only from my hip. So my adductor on this side is now working. Let's call that 15. I lost track. And then switching to the other side, this is the question. So you have to hike and then move. I need that. This is a lot more restricted, but it feels good. It feels like I'm working. Okay, 15, no pain. I have other bands here, but I'm gonna stay with this theme for a second. Okay, I'm gonna show you this from a different angle in a second. But I'm gonna do a rib cage on top of my pelvis, hip abduction. Okay, and you can also like do one at a time if you wanted. I think both is fine. So I'm gonna squeeze. Let's say I did 15. A couple things you can do. Number one, you can change your angle. Okay, so before I was vertical, you can change your angle. So now I have, call it a 15 to 20 degree, and then ask for that range of motion to be the same. Let's say that was 15. I don't really feel it that much. I feel I feel like the position itself is bothersome, but not the exercise. Then the third version of that, there's 9 versions by the way. Third version would be a leaning back. Put my hands back here. Now do it. This feels the easiest and the most free, meaning I don't feel the restriction because of the hip angle. I feel the muscle, but I don't feel the restriction. This position specifically felt the best. So 90 degrees, rib cage on top of the pelvis, and then pushing out to the side felt the best. Arguably, the position though, that was the hardest was this one. So I'm gonna go back to that, put that on my sheet, okay, all the exercises that we have today. So here, and that's the idea, right? Is you're trying to come up with 8 to 12 exercises that you can do repeatedly before moving on to other ones. Like, what am I going to do? Squat today? No way. This side's not so bad. But so that left side from that position, this one, I probably need a stronger band. Fine. But the other thing you can do from this, let's just say I did this. Uh, let's just say I changed hip height. Okay. Now I have a different angle. So I'm still, my rib cage is now stacked, but I have a different angle at the hip. That feels a little harder, to be honest. So interesting, right? I can show you the standing version of all of this too. Again, this band is probably a little light. Blue band is probably more appropriate. This is disassociation. We do this with technically a lot of clients. Just as an update, after standing up from them, those exercises, my hip does feel a little tighter right now. Not saying it's bad, but I feel the hip slash posterior of my spine on my lower left side feels a little tighter. So again, I talked about graduation. That's seated is above a half kneeling position. So I could have jumped the gun on that, but I did want to show you those exercises, maybe to my dismay. Let's show you this one though. So this is a rib cage down, stacked like the bottom of an RDL. From this position, I'm going to keep tension on the band and keep wide on the band. I'm going to let the knee collapse, open, knee collapse, open. No restriction there. I'm not feeling that work, right? And you're also going to look for a wobble. Like if I did that, then we'd have a problem and we'd say, all right, we need to address that. Now, on the other side, I feel that in the hip. Like I really feel that. So standing, again, I have another exercise, but this is called band disassociation. So ankle, knee, hip, up through the shoulders, can't move. I'll put my arms out. So you're trying to, and that control in needs to be demonstrated. I did a bit poor job there. But control, show that control, internal, external, foot rotating. That really feels that when I was on this side. I feel it, but it doesn't feel like as much work, to be honest. So way less work, really. So now we have a demonstration of exercises while seated. And let's check just to see, because an interesting situation could happen where if I go to do a toe touch and my range of motion goes down, meaning like I don't have the same range of motion as I did before. So I definitely feel tension a little sooner than I did before, and I can hold it, but I only feel this less in the hamstrings than when we first started today, but it didn't get better. So, again, concept for today. Can we do exercises that prove helpful to their client via positions and via awareness of the muscles that are moving extremities and or pelvis or rib cage through those positions? And when we identify those patterns, like for me today, it was that hip flexion at first, although it went away. That one became easy over time. The pelvic rotation when out of the box stretch, the T spine rotation out of the box stretch, that was a problem for me. Other exercises that were a problem was, I think, the seated position was a problem. That has actually been the source of most of my pain over the last 24 to 48 hours. I cannot sit for that long. I usually have to be laying down. So somehow hip extension versus hip flexion has been part of my solution. So there's that. And then another exercise that seemed problematic was that hydrant. I couldn't get from that seated position the same amount of abduction when my hip is at 90 degrees. So yeah, I still have more questions. The pain isn't as bad as it was when I started, but for you, the practitioner slash the client, if you have followed along this long, thank you. But also, I would encourage you to do these exercises and follow along. This is $150 to $300 value of self-assessment for you to finding exercises that feel the best and feel that you can do them. I think a lot of times people just say, I can't do that. I can't do these. I can't work out. Well, if these are exercises that are hard, not painful, but are hard, then they need to be part of your workout. So that's the tip of the day, and hope you have a great day.